Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this in-depth ag forecast for Ag South Farm Credit. I want to start out with some satellite data on Sunday because we're watching two rather powerful low-pressure systems pushing through parts of the southeast, one of them, and the other one was hitting the west coast. Now, the one on the west coast got a lot of attention. This is a very powerful system that hit California on Sunday and continues into early Monday morning. But the tight low that you can see here spinning overnight produced some very strong winds and also some severe weather. If you just take a look at what the winds are going to be like on Monday, still quite strong in parts of Georgia and South Carolina, especially right here along the coast. But that'll be, I think, kind of not the main story, given that we're expecting to see wind gusts early into Monday and on into possibly even into Tuesday, still gusting in parts of California and 40 to in some places over 70 miles an hour. So with that as a setup early this week, this is what our all hazards weather map looks like. So the west is pretty active with high wind warnings, flood watches, flood warnings, winter storm warnings, and early here on Monday morning, we still have the high wind advisories that are out for parts of South Carolina. Now, just taking a look at what those winds are going to be like, I'm just going to play forward for you some of the high resolution models to show you that we'll be getting these gusts still here today on Monday that are going to be adding up into that 30 to 40 mile an hour range, some places gusting a bit higher than that. And then this low is going to deepen right off the coast throughout the day on Tuesday, really making for some choppy water out here as wind gusts get up 50, 60, 70 miles an hour with this system, though. So honestly, there's the potential that we could have gusts in this low that's forming off our coast that approach hurricane strength. So just something neat to kind of think about how deep this low is going to be just off the coast. Okay, what have we had lately, though? This is how much rain I had through midnight on Monday morning. And we can see that parts of southern Georgia picked up some of the rains from the system that rolled across the south here, kind of kept to the south by a frontal boundary in this area. As those rains came through, they did deliver some severe weather, but I thought it'd be neat to kind of look at the last week because big sections of North and South Carolina missed out on precipitation over the last week. Not much to be seen. We kind of talked about that last week, that if there was something coming through, it was relatively light. So this is the last 7 days, and it's again just important to note that you'll hear a lot in the news in this new week here about how much flooding has gone on in the west. In fact, the Sierra Nevada mountains may, by the time we get to Tuesday morning, have, you look at the whole weekend, maybe an extra 6+ feet of snow added to them with all this moisture that's coming in. So major flood problem happening here, but we still have our stronger winds early in the morning here on Monday across parts of the southeast. Okay, just want to remind you that on the 4th, we did get several reports of severe weather, 3 reports of tornadoes. Some of this hit southern Georgia and Florida, some strong winds and some hail as that squall line came through on Sunday, producing some locally pretty nasty conditions. So I wanted to make sure I got those reported to you here. All right, let's go ahead and pick it up with the models and see where this is going. I really want to push quickly in this video to get to my longer range analysis, which is a lot of these slides at the very end. So let's get there. We're going to watch starting at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, the two systems, the one hammering the west, the one kind of really gaining a lot of speed here as it gets off of the east coast. Look at this wrap up real tight. That's amazing to see. So again, early Monday morning, the showers leave and the low just tightens up right here. We'll still have some stronger winds coming out of the north and west in parts of the southeast with this one. But then that low stays offshore, and we go through most of this week relatively drier as this big system hits the western United States. Now, before I get in and show you the longer range, or at least the medium range forecast, I need to kind of show you what's going on in the upper atmosphere, okay? So just starting off midday on Monday, there's the atmospheric river that's pummeling California Monday into Tuesday. And as we play this forward into Thursday, it would appear that we might be able to get something on the nose of the jet, but we're really in the wrong position. Late this week, this extended piece of the jet right here, this is what's left of it, will likely be putting a storm system that'll roll right through the upper Midwest, which means we'll watch later in the week for the chance for some showers, maybe some thunderstorms. But this is the wrong jet configuration to really hammer us with a lot of heavy rainfall, especially as we get into the weekend. While the winds are screaming in here, we're on the southern side of this, which is not the wet side of any piece of the jet stream. So playing out there past the 10th toward the 11th, 12th, and 13th, here will be the main thing to watch. A ridge builds up the west coast. We're going to start to dislodge some colder air that'll likely kind of bullseye itself over parts of the southeast. And just thinking about that and seeing how long it's going to last, the mainstay of my long-range forecast right now is going to be what I think the late winter and spring precipitation and temperature patterns may look like. So we're going to get to that in a few moments. But it's pretty clear that once we work our way past the middle of this week, toward the end of this week and weekend and early next week, we're going to get into some cooler air once again. And that's what I think the pattern's going to do as the jet stream just sits right on top of us. Okay, so let's compare some models here just to kind of get an idea on when the next system's going to come through after this one on Monday is out. So playing this forward, there we go through Monday. Watch the low curl up just off the coast here, pretty deep low, and the other one hits the west coast. Now we're going to get through Wednesday into Thursday without too much going on. There is that other low. Remember, I mentioned the one that's going to the north of the jet stream Thursday into Friday. And what we see is as it rolls through the Great Lakes, it may be on Friday that we get our next chance at some rain coming through this area. So that's it, Friday into Saturday. Now, some of the models early next week are attempting to kick another system that comes out of Texas and goes to the Ohio Valley. See that one? That's Sunday into Monday. And if that system does manifest itself, it is currently in both models. I'm rocking back and forth over next Sunday into Monday. Then we will have to look out for, again, a risk of some thunderstorm activity and also some locally heavy rain Sunday into Monday of next week. But that's pretty far out in the forecast, and I'm not overly confident that this system is going to materialize in quite the same way that the models are suggesting. But let's go ahead and have a look at it. And the first map I'm going to show you is what we're expecting to still accumulate on Sunday afternoon and evening. Remember, I record these late in the night on Sunday nights. And so you're seeing this is the rain that came Sunday evening. What's going to get added to it? Well, through Monday, not a whole lot. That system gets offshore pretty quickly and then tightens up here. So we have to wait. Much of the middle part of this week after Monday is dry until that frontal boundary gets to us. Look, Friday into Saturday, adding our next chance of getting some rain. But overall, we would call this next 5 to 7 days drier than average, especially for the Carolinas, wetter than average in parts of Georgia, primarily from the moisture that came Sunday night into early Monday morning. But there's another system. Here it is, Sunday, Monday. See it adding up there? That'll be the one that we'll keep a close eye on early next week. I'll have more details on that system early next week for you. But it could be a good push that comes in there, delivering some decent moisture. Now, thinking about all of this, I want to talk quickly about temperatures because after the Arctic outbreak of January 9th through the 21st, we then went very, very mild. So from the 19th through February 3rd, we've gone back over to trapping all of our coldest air in Alaska and Greenland and very mild conditions showing up across much of North America. By the way, just so you can see what that's done, we've melted a lot of our snow that was in the Midwest. The Mississippi River's taken it in. It's currently 25 feet higher than it was 2 weeks ago. And Memphis right now, it's 22 feet above low stage. And a lot of this moisture soaked into the Corn Belt, a huge recharging of the soil moisture in this area, which has been quite critical to the success of this winter setting up the Midwest with a good growing season for 2024. But I want to show you where I'm expecting this cold air to return first. So playing through this week, notice a ridge opens up late in the week. That's where some more mild air comes in. This will be this late weekend system developing as this trough, see it right there, comes over Texas. That's what's going to kick off the Sunday, Monday system that brings our chances of rain back up again. But then after that, watch where the trough settles. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, take you out to Valentine's Day. Big ridge builds into the west, cold air returns into parts of the southeast. But I want to make sure you understand this. This is not brutally cold air. It's just colder than average air that's going to return to that area as we press toward the middle of the month. Now to see what that results in, this is what the current week 2 forecast looks like. Honestly, we're a bit drier, and all 3 models were a bit drier. But take note that toward the end of week 2, we start to deliver some better precipitation into parts of Ag South territory. It's all going to be just coming around the base of this trough out there. See it? Once we get, the 15th through the 19th. So just want you to be aware of some of that moisture that is coming in to this area. So from there, let's talk temperatures. This is what Monday's high temperatures look like. You'll see the cooler air exit as we get into Tuesday, see it leaving. And then by Wednesday, much more mild air tries to press into the southeast. We try to finish the week on a warmer note. There's Friday getting into Saturday. But as I showed you, day 5 through 10 still mild, but day 10 through 15, when the ridge builds here, the subtropical jet is there. Some cooler air comes in to support it. So we go back over to temperatures that are 3 to 5, maybe 3 to 8 degrees cooler than average for a stretch here as we work our way past the middle of the month. Now, I just want to show you that this is echoed in the European model. This is day 5 through 10. We're still on the mild weather. Day 10 through 15 starts to drop us off with cooler temperatures. The European, though, is a bit more mild into this area, which is why we're not truly seeing a massive Arctic outbreak, and there's no strong teleconnection with like the polar vortex or anything like that. I am seeing, though, a cooler middle and end of February for most of Ag South territory. Now, you notice I kind of went through this relatively quickly because I don't see any just major upsetting event happening in the next couple of weeks. And that's why I wanted to kind of plow through this to get to my longer range outlook. Now, the MJO is being a bit of a pain. It's just left here in phase 7. If it were to keep moving and jump out to phase 8, I would tell you get ready for another kind of rockin', time period, end of February, beginning of March. But some of the new long range analysis take the MJO and looking out there over the next month, just collapse it. From this position in phase 7, they're just going to pull this in straight here. And if it dives into null space, we lose it as a signal. And what this is doing is this is starting to add a lot of uncertainty to this longer range outlook. And I want to explain that. I've got a lot of tabs to talk about to explain what I think we're going to see here in the coming weeks and months. So let's start off with what the government suggests. Their forecast right now is for near normal, maybe some below normal temperatures. Certainly we just saw this in the next few weeks, so I buy into that. And they're wetter the farther south and east you go. And that certainly makes sense, of course, with what we've got going on right now. This same forecast is even being echoed by the European model, going out even farther. So from mid-February to mid-March, they kind of have that same look, right? Drier mid-south, wetter down here. Now, just thinking about this, we actually need to get this moisture back into parts of coastal North Carolina and South Carolina, because if you look, going all the way back to October 1, which is the beginning of our water year, there's still been some climate reporting districts here as closer you get to the coast that have been showing up drier. But I just want to point out that over this new water year, October 1st is when it begins. So October 1st to February 4th, we have seen good moisture recovery throughout most of this area, especially the most recent time frame. So again, while there were deficits going into this, take a look at what the last 30 days has done. We've really seen some major improvement in our moisture situation, and we're drought-free right now. But I want to take note that this area lately has been getting missed more than points farther to the west and to the north. It's not as though it's bone dry, but it's not seen as much moisture as we've had a bit farther to the west of a line that runs right in through here. This is your last 30 days of percent or normal precipitation. So my question by showing you these maps is, do we continue on this wetter track going forward? So this is what I'd like to do. If we just make a broad assumption that El Nino is one of our largest kind of driving factors as we go forward, I can just tell you El Nino is still there and it is still strong. And historically, if we go back and look at all of those moderate strength to strong to very strong El Ninos, we can start to stitch those together to make a story. So let's go ahead and do that. First of all, it's common for February to be cooler than average for our area. So when you see those forecasts trending cooler, not just, next week, but sticking around for a while, well, that's quite common to see this. In fact, look at this forecast for February using all of the historic El Nino events, and let's go back and compare it to the CPC forecast. Very similar to their temperature forecast, right? So why don't we then do the same thing, but flip this over, and instead of showing temperature anomalies, let's show precipitation. And when we do that and create the plot, what you end up getting here is, look, we tend to be wetter right along the Gulf Coast and through this area, drier in the interior of the Ohio Basin, parts of the Mid-South. And does that not look very similar to their forecast? So my point is that the government, the CPC, and they're very good at their jobs, they are picking up on a strong El Nino pattern. And I think the reason for that is none of us are able to decipher what the MJO is going to do, if it'll override it. Okay, I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. But I kept digging deeper than just February. What about when we get into March, April, and May? So what I want to show you next is a panel here. And on my panel, I have got every El Nino event. But instead of showing you this one big composite map, I'd like to show you how challenging it is once you get into spring to use El Nino as your only guidance. So we're looking here at temperature anomalies for all of the most recent El Nino events. And as you look at them, do you notice how none of them have a similarity? Like there's not just one dominant archetypical setup for March and April temperatures. Sorry, I had to spit that out, but that's it. In fact, here's what the precipitation patterns look like. Now, as you look at this, you might be able to go and find certain years where it's like, holy cow, it's bone dry. That would be the warmer colors. And then you see other years, like take a look at this one, 1963. Fading El Nino, super wet. Same thing with 1973. Same thing with 2003. I mean, you find these years, and at the same time, you can find really dry ones as well. So you might ask, what year do I think is closest in terms of matching ocean temperatures to 2024? And I got to be honest, I think it's 2016. So this is 2016's ocean temperatures. This would be 2024. They look very similar for this time of year. They're not a perfect match. You're never going to find a perfect match, but this is what we've got. Now, just given that, this was what 2016 did. In March and April, we had a lot of severe weather in parts of the south, but we actually tended to be drier through the Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains all the way up to New England. That's 2016, right down there at the bottom, that one right there. And the temperature side of things, it was just mild, very mild. So I'll just tell you that if I had to steal one year out of all of them that I thought looked close, maybe 16 is the right year to go with. Now, what do the models say? Well, this one's going to update tonight, Monday night. So I'm going to show you the most recent update, which was from a month ago, or earlier, a month ago in January. But it's going to update, and I'll put it in next week's video. It's got March, April, and May wetter. By the way, the NMME has you wetter, and even the government has you wetter for March, April, and May. Now, I was just thinking about this going, okay, I think it's a continuation of El Nino and a continuation of what we've seen as of late, and I can buy into that. But the question is, how does this El Nino transition? And can we reliably look at some of these maps for both the temperature and precipitation anomalies and find the one that's probably most representative of what's going to happen? This is going to be very hard, and it's going to take me a lot of time to do it. I'll keep the theme going. We'll talk about it again next time. But I thought, well, why don't we just go beyond this? Why don't we look out there at history? You see, March through May in the southeast since 1970, we've actually had a warming over all of our temperatures since 1970. So that also helps reinforce why I think, let's go to the other one. I'm sorry about that. Why I think we could have a more mild spring coming our way. Now, listen, this does not mean you can't get a cold shot in there. This does not mean that we're going to have our last frost really early versus on time or normal. I'm just telling you what I think the broader scenario being painted is at this point. Okay, from there, I want to go to this. This is the March, April, May temperatures, and just show you that this is what the government currently thinks. All right, we looked at the southeast average temperatures. Let's now look at one other thing here. When you get out there into April, one of the things in spring that ensures mild weather is if you can get warm water to occupy the Gulf Stream and the Gulf of Mexico. So one of the top things I'll be monitoring for are the forecasts of the ocean temperatures. And maybe one setback to my forecast of being mild is that in April, notice that along the coast, we don't see the forecast models right now predicting much above average temperatures. At least it's not cold, but it's not really, really warm. If these ocean temperatures were warm, then I would have a much higher confidence forecast to say, yep, plan on a wet, stormy spring that's also going to be mild. So I need to let this picture evolve. I need to think about it more, and next week give you another update on where I think the pattern's going. But I wanted you to see this right now, okay? So just so you know what I'm thinking. Globally, let's come back to the next 10 days. Mild across most of North America, mild across Europe except for Scandinavia, mild across most of the planet right now. But look at the precipitation distribution. Very wet across Europe and Russia. But take a look at South America. Wet in the center west, wet in the northern growing areas of the northeast, drier in central Brazil. But after a week of very hot temperatures and almost no precipitation, Argentina is expecting to go back over very, very wet. Take a look at that, which means that crop coming out of Argentina only went through just a little bit of adversity, and now it's expected to come back in with some good rains. So that's what I'm watching. If you kind of said, Eric, it feels a little bit like you've got a confusing picture for spring, I do. I don't have a strong signal right now that just makes me confident about what's going to be happening as we go forward. So I will keep an eye on this, and I'll report back to you again very soon. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk next Monday. Thanks.